Welcome back. Often duplicated, never replicated to the way that it is here at ASMG TV. Welcome to Center Circle Podcast, your home for all things UPSL. I'm joined by Andre Bomar, and now new to the ASMG TV love triangle. It's Massimo. Massimo, welcome to
I
the
couldn't
group.
have been introduced better, to be completely fair.
Welcome to the group, new to
Thank you.
ASMG. It's your first time in the UPSL. You got your right off the bat, you're jumping into the Premier Division, a league that has just blown up over the course of the last season.
Yeah.
Now that we have two different groups in both the Premier and Division One. In the Premier, you got Zone One, Zone Two, Division North and South. You come in at just the peak of how soccer is down here in Georgia. Uh, I want to quickly get your thoughts
Yeah.
on some of the soccer that you've seen so far.
I'm going to tell you what I noticed so far. And I grew up in Italy and I saw Italian soccer my entire life. So I can tell you two main differences. One is the quality of the fields and the infrastructures. The United States are so above compared to Europe in that regards at a semi-pro level. Now, if we're talking about the average level of play, I would also say the UPSL in general brings a really good level. What I have noticed is that there are some teams that are better organized than others, and some teams that have better talent than others, but it really goes down to consistency. What teams are able to bring their best players every game at home and when they play away. And it goes down to this, but the UPSL and the Premier Division is something entertaining that people need and want to watch.
And it's something that we've talked about, Dre, multiple times is these teams that have a group of admins. You've got your coaches, you got your admins, you've got your trainers, and these just single man systems. And it's those single man systems that are starting to get exposed now that the level of play has been increasing here in UPSL Georgia, which is by far one of the biggest, most competitive conferences in the UPSL. Full disclosure, Andre Bomar is the conference manager, but
The
you can
inside
say,
man.
but just like we know, I mean, I've been a part of ASM. I've been a part of the UPSL now for 5 years. Been a part. We've had ASMG for four. But the level of play that I have seen since joining in 2020 has been leaps and bounds. And you
Well,
can,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's sort of like kind of what Massimo said when I first got involved with the UPSL. If you remember, it was the Caribbean League, and which was basically a recreational league, and with a UPSL logo. So you had a lot of teams from that background that played with that idea that we show up on Sunday and we play the game and that's it. So there was no development, there was no marketing, there was none of that stuff. And so, fast forward, these last 7 or 8 or 9 years, you now have replaced a lot of those recreational clubs with professionally run clubs. Atlanta United, Georgia Revolution, Georgia Impact, Kalonji Pro Profile. And so but you have a mix, like you say, you have a mix of those who have. I mean, if you look at Atletico Buford, I mean, they have a full coaching staff. But if you look
yeah.
at a team like in the first division, Atlanta City FC, one man runs everything. There's one coach, and he runs the academy, he runs everything. And so there's a very big discrepancy in the way that different clubs are run, but that's the way it is at the development level. But also involved in that is the culture of the game here. And I think I was going to ask Massimo about this because when you think about the game in the United States, it comes from a pastime background, you know. But
Yeah,
if you go to Italy, it is a cultural part of
of
the
course.
society there. So, I mean, have you noticed that, Massimo, that difference, coming from Italy to here?
Yes, no, I mean, I think you made a good point. The thing is that soccer will never be treated as football in the United States. And I think the earlier we soccer people understand that, the earlier we learn how to move differently. we will soccer in the United States will not grow the same way it grew in Italy or in England because it has never been the main sport in the United States. Soccer can grow in different ways. And I think we need to talk about the marketing aspect, the communication aspect, even the visibility, right? Because we talk about the UPSL, which is essential for the growth of soccer. Because if we, the United States, want to have a valid team, and I'm talking about our national team, now we're really close to the World Cup, but I'm talking, looking at 8, 12 years from now, you need to have youth developmental programs that allow for soccer to become a main sport in this country. And again, it goes down to communication. It goes down to how much visibility. Just to give you an idea, even in college soccer, lacrosse and other sports in college are much more watched than soccer. And it's not because soccer, it's not a better sport. I think we all agree that soccer is by far the best sport in the world. It's because there isn't culture and because it hasn't been communicated properly to those who are watching it at home. And there's no reason why people are dragged in to watch it because they don't understand why. Why should I do it? Why should I not spend my weekend watching football or baseball? We need to find a reason for them to be motivated. And I think a lot of that goes through television and social media and what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, and you have to know that when you look at the professional ranks of soccer here in the U.S., it was originally created by the NFL, by Lamar Hunt, because they needed something to fill the arenas and stadiums while the football was on vacation.
Of
Now,
course.
to go into that, we need to. This goes right into the news that was announced today on the UPSL. The CEO of the UPSL, Graham Walsh, has stepped down as the CEO of the league as he takes over the selling of to the Scythe LLC. It was something that happened a couple months back. It happened. The announcement was made all the way back in the finals of the spring season when and Dre, you were at the finals of the spring finals in Irvine, California, and got to meet some of the individuals that are a part of the Scythe organization when they were announcing that they were becoming a stakeholder in the UPSL, and we talked then, and we weren't quite sure what was going to happen with Graham and how we were going to do it, and I have been there. We've spoken to Graham many a times. Graham has made the UPSL better. He leaves it better than when he got it. We all know that at the end of the day, the company that Graham's a part of, ELP Brands, when they bought the UPSL, it was more of buying a commodity, buying a product more than when they were, it wasn't so much that they were soccer people, that they were buying something that they knew had a possibility of being something more than it was. I mean, when Graham took it over in 2020, we had what, Dre, maybe 200 teams nationwide,
Yeah, I think it was close to 400 when he took over.
and now
Over 300, 400. Yeah.
yeah, now we're over 800.
Yeah, that
And
includes the women, the academies, Division 1. Yeah.
and that was exactly where I was going. We now have a women's division. We now have the academies, the 13s, 14 or 13s, 15s, 17s. We have the premier division. We have Division 1. When he first bought the UPSL, it was one division. And we can say the UPSL can say they're the first truly US based organization that has promotion relegation.
Yeah, I mean
We needed that, by the way, because
Yeah.
that's real soccer right there. That was a clear move to be done.
Yeah, like you said earlier, Larry, it was modeled after the American sports, and particularly NFL. And so, you have what's called a franchise-based sport. And so the marketing is that way. You have fans from all over the country that follow LA or Atlanta United or these different ones, but it's a surface level support. It's not a cultural club that you have in, say, particularly England. And I've had the the I guess the privilege of living overseas. I lived in Sweden for a year. I got a chance to go to the games there, and that was back in 1989, 90. And so I got a real good look at the difference in the way the sporting environment was there as it is here. And Massimo is right. You're not going to have that environment here. You're going to have more of what you see in college here, that type of support. And so, but you can market it that way. It doesn't have to be one way. And I love the way that Graham uh, really looked and designed the sport here in the United States. And it's the only league that really follows that pattern that you would kind of see in Europe, where you would have promotion and relegation, where you have community-based clubs that connect with the local community. So they're not really worried about large crowds. Like, Atlanta United, it can fill up a 75,000 seat stadium. But that's a Broadway show in a sense. They're putting on a show. What the UPSL is designed for is developmental, and developing players from an amateur recreational background, getting to the next level, whether it's college, whether it's semi-pro or professional. And I think when you look at UPSLsoccer.com and look at the stories, you see that happening. You see those players going to the next level. And that's a success story. And I think that's the legacy that a Graham Walsh will have in building that foundation. And so Alex, what's his name? The new Demetrio, Alex Demetrio, the new ownership group. It's a family-owned group of people that are going to be running it now. They have in the last year really been working closely with Graham. And I think that they're on the same page, and hopefully they'll be able to continue that on and build it. But from the conference level, I think that they really need to look at, and teams are going to have to learn this, learn how to connect with the local community. And a good example of that is LSA Norcross, who used to be Laminio, Georgia. You see Coach Mochilla, who's done a great job of creating an academy and getting involved with the local community. And that was one of the main reasons for the rebranding. And so that's a really interesting legacy, I think, that Graham has done, and the way the league has been constructed. And I'm looking forward to see what happens now with this new ownership.
Andre, I may tell you something that sounds completely outrageous, but my idea, and this is me coming up with it, if anybody steals it, it's because I said it on this podcast. It's because we need a reality TV show in youth soccer in the United States, going inside the locker rooms and showing the humans thriving, passion, losing, coaches getting mad at players. We need to see the human aspect, because those who don't care about soccer are going to get into the show. We're going to call it The Next Goal, and we're going to follow all the talents that later are going to go to the MLS or the NWSL. We're going to follow all these future talents that go up and play in major divisions, but it all starts here. It all starts here, and it all starts in college soccer. But to get people involved, to get Americans involved, you need to have television and you need to have human stories. And then later they'll get into soccer. It sounds outrageous. A lot of coaches are not going to like the idea of having cameras coming in the locker room, but seeing those team dynamics, making those soccer players human and close to us, that's what makes people get into sports, become passionate about what they're watching.
Now he's giving away all our cigarettes.
No, I mean, he brings up a good point, though. I mean, that's the idea of ASMG. The reason ASMG exists is for that reason. And we've, forged a partnership with Soccer Saves Live, SSL, and Kalanji Per Profile. Of course, Massimo's the voice of SSL right now, coming in. But that's going to expand. We're also now got a partnership going with LSA Norcross. And so, as we get more quality people like Massimo and Larry here involved, we're able to do those human stories, the behind the scenes stuff. It's more than just game day. It is about telling the story behind this league and also show the struggle of these players trying to get to the next level. Because
A
one
lot
other
of them are
thing,
doing a job. They're working. They have kids at home, and then they're coming on a Saturday or Sunday or Monday or whatever day it is. Because sometimes even we play in the middle of the week. But these guys are working and they're playing soccer, and I love to see. I would love to see those dynamics shown on a local scale, and then you would get all the local fans involved, all the local communities involved. But then you could also go national. We had a show like that in Italy. It was about 2012. It was called, I think, Young Promises or something like that. And we saw some players coming out of there and going to play in the Serie A. And you're like, oh man, I
wow,
know that guy since he was 16 or 17. It was an amazing show. Me and my buddies all used to watch it. That's how I think you get people into youth soccer,
yeah,
into you get them into UPSL, you get them into the sport. You need
yeah.
to start at a basic level. I don't want to hear the story of Cristiano Ronaldo because Cristiano Ronaldo is a robot. I want to hear the story. I want to hear a story I can relate to. And those are human stories.
Yeah, that developmental phase, guys, is what's missing here. Like you say, a lot of American sports is all about the top level sports, NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, these types of things. But how many know about the developmental side of it, like in baseball, the minor leagues and the B leagues and the NBA? Nobody talks about that. Nobody even looks at it. But you can make it attractive with those compelling stories. And the UPSL is a compelling competition. You're talking about promotion and relegation, but you also have a national playoff. And it's all very compelling how that is put together. And now they've got the women is doing the same thing. Some great stories about that. I'm sure Larry can tell you about, the goalkeeper on the winning side of Little Rock there. And that's a story that people need to know about. And that's something we're going to investigate.
Absolutely. And we know it firsthand. I mean, you take a look at a player that we saw all the way through his progress, Anthony Sumo, part of the Kalanji system. I watched him play indoor soccer for many, many seasons on the side, saw him in the academy system when he was playing in the Georgia soccer group. Then he became a part of the UPSL. Now he's playing for Carolina Core. You look at Jan Diamande, he started over in Florida, now is in the Bundesliga. We need Massimo is 100% right, and that's one of the things that the league needs ASMG and groups like us, if there are any. I'm still waiting. Uh, that can tell the stories like we can.
Yeah, I think Larry, that's so true because I think when some people think about ASMG and what we do, sometimes they think, oh, it's live streaming, which is part of it for real. But it's so much more than that. And as Massimo alluded to, the only way to really grow the league and grow the popularity of the individual teams is to shine a light on them. And you have to do that in a professional and compelling way. Otherwise, it's not going to be interesting. Because I'll tell you, one of the one of the requirements of being in the premier division here in Georgia, well, across the UPSL, is you have to live stream your games. But how many teams use professional live streams? A lot of people,
Because there's
it's
a big
very poor.
difference. There is
Yeah,
a
I mean,
big
it's
difference.
huge. Yeah, I mean, and it's some of the streams that are created are unwatchable. And
Yeah.
I get complaints all the time from coaches who are using, professional broadcasting like what we provide, and they see another team that's not doing that, and they are like, well, why are they even bothering? Why do we have to hold ourselves to a certain standard, but they don't? But the advantage for these teams is you're helping your players.
Yeah.
Kalanji, look at the people he's able to place because coaches and scouts from around the world are able to look at quality broadcasting
Yeah.
and then judge those players. If you have a poor stream, nobody's interested in that, what's going on there. And that's
Well, I mean,
unfortunate, but
from the
that's the
perspective
fact.
of a recruiter, they need get the best player in the short amount of time, and they don't want to waste time watching a stream with 360p or whatever, and there's no commentator and there's nothing that adds on top of the visual experience. they're just gonna go and check out if anybody has better, recording equipment, and they're gonna check out if anybody has a better live stream, and they're gonna check out on those players. And some players, they might be great players, but if you're not showing them, then nobody's taking them.
Yeah, yeah, and part of that's just the organization. Are you charging at the gate, reinvest in your club? And if you're able to get those that interest from overseas or the professional ranks, you're talking about transfer fees and ways to build other revenue for your club. But if you're not doing that, then you're just a recreational club.
Couldn't say it any better. So we'll end by saying for our first piece, nothing but the best to Graham. Tip of the hat. He leaves the UPSL in a better state than when he took over. So let's talk about really quickly something that goes along with that. 2026 U.S. Open Cup, there's going to be 75 teams from the UPSL. They're going to be a part of the qualifying stages. In Georgia, I believe we have 5 teams that are going to be a
Yeah,
part of it.
yeah, yeah. There are 5.
And that just another piece that shows you how much the UPSL has grown over the last few years, especially the last year.
Yeah, and again, just like the regular league in the Premier, getting into a cup competition like this can be very educational for these clubs. I think a lot of them are struggling with the fixture congestion, and it's something that you think you would think about before you accept invitation to play in a cup competition like that. But these clubs are finding out, wow, we got to fit this game in, and like Massimo said, we have people that work and have families and things of that nature. They have to juggle all these things, but it's a learning curve. It's something that they have to come to terms with if they want to be considered a pro development club, and that's one of the things. But it's a great way for exposure. Some teams don't get it, but other teams kind of do, and it's going to help them in the long run. But it is an investment in time, and it is, there's sacrifice involved in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really all about the romanticism of the game, because this is the opportunity for players who come from a small town, who play in a small team, to go and play against pros. This is a chance to
Yeah.
go play against a much bigger team, and there's nothing better than an underdog story. I mean, we've seen it with Grimsby Town against Manchester United, where they tied 2-2, went to penalties, and then Grimsby Town won it. I mean, did you guys see the excitement they had over there at the stadium? They were, first of all, they were packed, but I understand that they're playing against Manchester United. But the celebration, the romanticism. Now, I'm not a Manchester United fan, and now you can understand why I'm bringing this up, because it's exciting if you're not a fan. But it's really these stories that make the game. It's when the underdog takes the up dog. It's when, David beats Goliath. It's when you see a story that you're not expecting come to life.
Yeah, yeah, that's what makes it compelling, and if you can identify that, you can build on it and build that connection with the local community, with the U.S. Open Cups, with the competition in UPSL. It's year round, and so there's always again, compare that to going to a MLS game, for the family, how much less expensive it is to go there, and you get to see the upcoming pros. You can, like Larry mentioned, you see these guys start out as amateurs, and then all of a sudden you see them, get to that next step, start playing professionally, and you can say, "Hey, I remember when I saw this guy, and I was able to communicate with him, at the amateur level. Now look at him; he's, a big
Yeah,
star and everything." So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's an amazing story, and you get that over and over and over again at this level, and that's why I love working in the UPSL, because you see it, you can absolutely see it.
And while Dre may be a Sunderland cat, I still am a Red Devil. So we
Sorry.
will move on from there. Let's talk about where we are 1 month into the fall season. Look at the Premier Division. So Zone 1, Atletico Buford blowing it out of the water coming up from Division 1. Kalanji Pro Profile, a little bit of a stumble against Atletico Buford. Pachuca, Georgia, Georgia Impact, Georgia Revolution, Georgia Athletic, FC Columbus Elite. First thing I'll say, Atletico Buford, wow. Watching that first game against Kalanji Pro Profile, winning 8-3, I was blown away. The only match that I had called before that was when they played in the final against Scenic City, and they were good, but I did not see them being as good as they have been so far here in the fall season.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Kalanji had that first game for Kalanji was weird, and this is where we go back to consistency. They did not arrive prepared to the season. I mean, Bruno Kalanji is an amazing reputation. He heats up during the game, but that's part of being a coach. Um, I think they were not prepared for that first game. It shows in this league. If you don't show up prepared, somebody else will, and they'll take the points.
That's it in a nutshell, Massimo. I was at that game. We did the broadcast, and the thing that I marveled at when you looked at the profile or the way that each of the teams approached that game, Atletico approached it like it was a cup final. I mean, they got there. They were, they had a number of different coaches there. The warm up, everything. There was conferences. All that was leading up to starting, and they were focused. And Kalanji was almost the exact opposite. There were no coaches there. They had an
Yeah.
admin on the sideline that did no
Do we know some
coaching.
of the behind the scenes of that? What happened?
It's
Because they've
what
always been extremely professional in that regards.
Well, what it is, and I've seen this happen with a number of different teams there, is they're involved in the UPSL, but they're also involved in other competitions, and they're spread very thin. It takes a lot of organization to play in multiple different leagues, and then you have players that do coaching. Most of their top line players that were supposed to be at that game were away on coaching assignments. Kareem Tamimi, Grant Carr, they were coaching youth teams out of the state. And so when you have that, then you can't have, like you say, that consistency is not going to be there. And then of course without coaching there's no leadership. There's also no adjustments. When things started to go wrong, no adjustments were made. And so you're relying on the talent level of the players that are there. But if you're playing against a very good team, and you're going to be hurt by that. And I think we saw a good illustration of that on that day.
They weren't expecting Atletico Buford to be that good. Let's be
Yeah.
honest between us. They probably weren't expecting that.
No, they weren't. So
And they
hopefully it's
are
a
that
lesson they
good this
learn.
year. They are that good. They are
Well,
that good.
they're in top spot. The table doesn't lie, as they say.
That is true. And now talk about zone two, top of the table, Potros FC, looking good. LSA Norcross Pro, like you said, formerly Lamino, Georgia. SSL, Scenic City, FC Birmingham, North Georgia United, Dalton United, and the returning Atlanta United Academy. The one that sparks me more than the Atlanta United and the lack of any wins is got to be Dalton United. They look really toothless this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
Potros FC, they look good. They've been looking good for many seasons. Christopher Uranga really has a good ship over there at Potros FC. LSA, I can't say enough. They have a well groomed system, and it was something that happened in Massimo. You weren't a part of the ASMG and the UPSL. LSA was a part of the Premier Division for quite some time, and they were relegated a couple seasons back. And one of the biggest reasons was they didn't have a path of the youth system. They have a good academy, but they really didn't have a path for their youth players to come up into their premier team. So they spent a couple seasons down in Division One, really got it righted, and they have looked really good so far. The likes of Xavier Diouf in the midfield, Panagos, some of the other guys,
Yeah, the Orta brothers.
the Orta
Yeah.
brothers, the Gutierrez brothers. They've looked really good, had some really sensational goals so far in the spring. And like we've talked about, you talked about it back pass episode, top four teams are going to make it into the playoffs. I can easily see Potros and LSA holding down one of those
Yeah.
spots.
I
Yeah,
can't wait to see that game. I can't wait to see them play one against another. I can't wait to see that game. That's going to be
that's
high level soccer.
Yeah.
yeah, and they're very much separated from the rest of the division. I think they stand out as the key and the quality there. Everybody else below them is almost interchangeable, and so it's hard to know who's going to hit that third and fourth spot there. And I'm impressed with Scenic City too, because they look much like Atletico coming up from Division One. They look like serious contenders for the playoffs. So I wouldn't count them out as well. So
I'm
Well,
uh,
curious. I'm curious about Soccer Saves Lives. I've seen them. I've seen them play against Dalton United. And again, Dalton United is not in a good place right now. The game I called ended like 6-1. There were 3 penalty kicks. But I
yeah,
saw SSL has some real physical strength and then speed, the pace on the wingers. And in this division, if you can do that one on one, and you're sure most of the times that you're going away from the defender, then that creates a +1 in the offense. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous. The SSL, I really wish the way they play, I like them. I want to see where they can go this season because I know last season was a tough one. They were fighting for relegate to not get relegated. So I want to see if this year they can do that step forward into the right direction and maybe hit those upper spots.
yeah, I think so. I think Coach Red has things organized really well there. Tactically, he's on top of things, and like you say, they've got the right type of talent, a lot of speed. They press really high.
They pressed really high. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they force their opponents into a lot of mistakes, and that's what you need at this level. And I think in this particular zone, it's going to give them dividends. And I think that teams like Dalton and Atlanta United are going to suffer because of that. I'm not sure that they can make it. A lot depends on who shows up, though, because Atlanta United has access to a lot of players that they could use, including from the Atlanta United 2 squad. And so you would see a very different squad if they brought those guys down to play in the UPSL. But it's not going to be easy for them because I think Portos and, like you say, Larry, Portos and LSA are going to be the favorites to be 1 and 2 at some. I don't know who's going to be 1 and 2, but the rest, it could be SSL, like, FC Birmingham, if they can get themselves together, that could be another one. But those two are definitely going to be there.
And Coach K and North Georgia United, they're still struggling up there. Maradiaga and Emmanuel Lam have done well a couple games. They just need the consistency. FC Birmingham, they're a bit snake bitten. They should have won that match against Scenic City if it wasn't for that late goal.
Yeah, stoppage
And
time goal.
and they have moments where they look really good. They've got Cosmos Azuru back in goal, one of my favorite goalkeepers in the UPSL Georgia Conference. He's a really good, the Frenchman is a really good goalkeeper all around. It's just going to see if Josh Martinez, along with his new assistant slash head coach, I don't really know. I haven't really talked to Doug, the owner of FC Birmingham, how the structure is because last season Josh took over the coaching role and he was a player coach last season. So it'll be interesting to see, how they run out the rest of the season.
Yeah, we'll have him on one of the set pieces in the coming week, and he'll talk about the restructuring he has on the staff. He's got a coach now, and that's made a lot of difference for stability. But again, they haven't hit their stride yet, and they could.
All right, that's going to wrap up the Premier Division for the first month of the fall season. We thank Massimo for joining us in the first little bit here. We'll talk about the Division One here in just a few moments. First, let's pay some bills. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Ballistic Sportswear. If you believe that your club needs affordable, high-quality kits that are customized to showcase your club's colors, cultures, and community, then look no farther than ballisticsportswear.com. One of our fans, they provide us our gear at ASMG TV. We thank them so much. So if your club is looking for a new kit, to showcase your group, contact ballisticsportswear.com.
And we also have Images Frozen in Time Photography. They are our partner photographic service that works with us, providing us with all the match photography you see with us. They also provide video editing that you see with the extended highlights and top goals, those types of things. But if you need professional photography for any occasion, whether it's a wedding, senior pictures, whatever, look out for Images Frozen in Time Photography for an opportunity to help you with that.
And thanks to our sponsors that help us keep the lights on, so to speak, around here. Let's talk really quick about Division One, because Division One is in kind of the same setup as the Premier Division. Two groups, the North and the South, a total of 50, is it 17 teams?
I
Yeah,
think it's
17 teams.
17. Yes.
Yeah. I almost said 15, but that is the other group. So
That's Premier. Yeah.
yeah, so 17 teams. So take a look over at the North Division. You got Atletico Buford 2, UFA Lawrenceville, Mableton, North Georgia United 2, Potros FC U23s, Scenic City Soccer Club 2, Chattanooga FC U20, Club de Strongest Los Tigres, and Dalton United 2. A lot of second teams in that North group. The one that really stands out, Chattanooga FC U20 team, the Chattanooga FC organization becoming a part of the UPSL, still finding their ways in the league. They've had two matches, one win, one loss. Also, UFA Lawrenceville doing really well. They're in second place right now, just 2 points off of Atletico Buford. And Mableton FC, new to the UPSL, they're also in third place. So some really interesting setup there in the North, because you have a lot of teams that are second teams, and you have a few of those brand new teams to the UPSL.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Chattanooga, we expected them to be a part of the Premier for this season. They opted to go Division One. I think they want to build a firm foundation in that and kind of get used to the league at first, yeah, using a lot of the youth in that team. But they will be transitioning to Premier because there's going to be another restructuring. As I'll, full disclosure, coming up for the spring season, might be another expansion. We're still discussing it right now, but and there are some teams that are coming back, like UMA, that may come back for Premier for next season. They have a team in Division One for this season, but they, much like some other teams, have a lot of college players, and they're reorganizing things because they want to find the players that can play year round. But yeah, this is a good staging area for some of the teams in Premier, and that's why you see a lot of second teams down there. The only sad thing about it is that these second teams cannot be promoted, even if they finish at the top of the division. We teams are not allowed to have two teams out of their club in the Premier Division. So it's a place for experience. It's a place for some of the fringe players to prove themselves, to earn a spot maybe on the Premier Division side. So it serves its purpose, and it's a good building block for the clubs.
Absolutely. Look at the South. South has more individual teams, excuse me. Augusta Arsenal, brand new to the UPSL. LSA Norcross 2. FC Atlanta, Columbus Knights, Atlanta City, Angeles, UMA FC2, and Middle Georgia United. I was really impressed in Angeles when I covered their match earlier in the season when they took on FC Atlanta. FC Atlanta is still a really, really good team. They're really, they made that choice to also move down to Division One to restructure, and they still have a lot of really, really good players there on FC Atlanta. I haven't seen Augusta yet. They're at the top of the table, 9 points. They played three matches, won three games. So definitely looking to make some waves. We'll see if they have an opportunity to be promoted or be a part of that restructuring. We shall see. And like you were saying, UMAFC, they have taken a lot of hits. You take a look at the fact that Tony Kim in the spring, he was playing in the USL 2 when he was, we got to see him when we were covering some of the USL 2 back in the spring. So, a lot of changes down there in the LaGrange area.
Yeah, I think this particular zone here is the most interesting to me. We have Atlanta City returning. This is a team that was in Premier. They left the league under sort of a shadow, a misunderstanding that has been repaired, and now that they're back, but they're going to have to earn their way back through the competition. FC Atlanta, like you said, they were not relegated. They chose to go down, and it was. I can appreciate that. They really wanted to restructure the club, and they didn't want to be in Premier while they did that, and now they want to earn their way back up. And they've been playing well. They're well organized, and it's something that they're trying to build on. Angeles is we saw them for the first time there. It's a brand new team out of Warner Robins, and it'll be interesting to see how they transition as a new club in Division One. I think for them, they just want to compete and do well this first season, and maybe next season look at trying to drive towards promotion. But you never know what can happen. But I think the big disappointment is going to be Middle Georgia so far. They were in the playoffs, the promotion playoffs last season, but they've had a very, very slow start here. They're not scoring any goals so far, and they've let in 13 goals, and so there's an issue there that they're going to have to try to turn things around if they have any hope of getting to the playoffs pictures. And just so everybody knows, the playoff picture in Division One is different than it is in Premier in the sense that the goal in Premier is to go on to the national playoffs, but the goal in Division One is to qualify for promotion. And so there will be four teams in each zone. I guess these are groups. So there's North and South group that will qualify for the playoffs, promotion playoffs, and two teams will come up as it is right now. Now the two teams that win their group, the first place team in South and first place team in North, will play a one-off playoff, and the winner of that playoff will be the first promoted team. That's how that works. The loser will re-enter the Division One playoffs with the other teams that qualify, and the winner of the Division One playoffs will be the second promoted team. And that's the way that works. And so there's a lot at stake for these teams to move up and be a part of that, either winning the group or being a part of the playoffs gives you an opportunity to move up to the Premier for the following season.
Want to take a moment to just have a little disclosure rant. It
Go
just
for it,
just
man.
and I'm gonna premise this rant is not connected to ASMG in any way. This is my thoughts alone. Andre being the UPSL conference manager for Georgia, he is not this. This is just me. Full disclosure, I was a admin for Seas United back in 2020. So I was an admin. I had this little book that you all have, the UPSL soccer handbook, and all of you teams, you have everything that you need right here. All of the policies, procedures that you need to do from Monday to Sunday is right here. Everything you need to know. All of these teams that show up, and what we are trying to do here at ASMG is we're trying to showcase your players so that they can move on to the next level. You got to give me a roster. You got to give me a roster that has numbers that are the right number. If I'm calling, let's just say Bob Smith, number 20, and then you tell me after the fact that, oh, that was really John Jones. Well, how am I supposed to know that? If you're not telling me properly, well, that doesn't help. It doesn't help your player, it doesn't help your organization, and it doesn't help the viewer. Just like what Massimo was saying earlier, you're trying to build this up and you're trying to grow the community of soccer, we ASMG and the community need you as much as you need us. So just take some time, get it right, and let's work together to have a sensational season.
Yeah, I can go along with that though, Larry. I know that those are your feelings, but I share it. I think that people wonder why did I start ASMG? I mean, it wasn't just for fun. I saw the value in putting these guys in the showcase. Um, and it is frustrating to see that teams don't appreciate the opportunity, right? Um, and there was one team last season during the playoffs that we were trying to get a national exposure for them through the UPSL, and they denied it. And they wanted to do their own thing, and I think that it's almost like you're not seeing you're not seeing the forest for the trees. You can do your thing but on a bigger stage if you allow people to promote you. And so when you see that, it gets kind of frustrating because there's a lot of potential in all of these teams to do much better for their players, for their communities, to get the local businesses involved in sponsorship. But a lot of times they just do the bare minimum and they just show up and play and leave, and you just see all these missed opportunities. So but some teams do get it. Some teams are doing a really good job of building that connection with the local community. And part of that is when someone offers to do, whether it's a broadcast, podcast, whatever it is, that's going to feature your team, they're more than willing to give you the information needed so that they can benefit. And so, yeah, I think I share what you're saying.
Yeah, because it really comes down to we want your players to become pros. We know Anthony Sumo, and we saw him from when he was a kid to where he is now as a pro. We called Jan Diamante's match when he was part of AS Frenzy and was in the Elite Eight, and we looked at each other and said that kid's gonna be a star. And we see it now with player after player. How many seasons have I been saying Emmanuel Lam, that's going to be a good kid. That kid's going somewhere. He's going to be a pro. Tony Kim, wow, that kid's amazing. He's going to be a star. The list goes on and on and on. Nazario and Bamio, one of the greatest strikers that we have in the Georgia Conference, on and on and on. The problem is if these teams don't see the value in presenting their players, you're doing your players a disservice. Your players are not going to be able to achieve their dreams because you're not letting them.
I think too, Larry. I think one of the reasons for that, and it goes back to something Massimo said, is that there is a difference in the way the game is looked at here as opposed to, in Europe or Latin America or even the Orient. And so, the thought of if you're not in a part of the big leagues, the MLS or whatever, it's not important. And so you don't see even your own self as important. And I think that if you can change that mentality, that way of thinking, because these guys come from a recreational background, amateur, and there really hasn't been a pathway from youth up to professional that's been clear here in the United States, like it is in Europe, where it's the complete opposite. So now we're presenting that. The UPSL is presenting that. And I don't think you see it in any other, whether it's tier four league here, anywhere else, because a lot of these other tier four leagues are just summer leagues. They're limited. They don't have promotion relegation. They many of them call themselves professional, but it's in name only. And so, what counts as a professional environment, is the way you do business, the way that you go about your business. And some get it and have made that step up there, and we see that with different clubs. but some have to learn it, because they haven't had an example to follow. And that's what I'm hoping here in the Premier. We do have enough teams that are doing it right that I think can set a proper example for the other teams that maybe just don't know how to do it. And so that's what's great about the UPSL. It is a developmental type of league, not just for the players, but it's also for the coaches, for the sponsors, even the referees. Everybody's learning the same way, and it's great. It's fun to be involved in all of that, and ASMG is part of that. Massimo coming on board now. We've had John Reno and different ones who work with us, and it's the same thing for us too. So yeah, it's a compelling thing, and hopefully people will understand that and help these teams out that way.
Yeah, and full disclosure with ASMG, we have broadcast in those other leagues. We have seen what those other leagues do. The UPSL is the best all-around league, bar none. If you need help as a club and to get to the next level, reach out to us. Even if we don't broadcast your match, we can give you items. We've been here long enough. We can show you the way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's more than just game day broadcasting that's available for exposure, and we can do a lot to feature players, teams, the background, and so it's all there. We're all a big football family, and you just need to try to help each other.
So that'll finish that wonderful rant. Thank you so much for paying attention to us, and we move on. All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Center Circle podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Larry Weaver. He's been Andre Bomar. Also, Massimo Chow, our good friend. We'll see you next time right here on the Center Circle podcast.